Okay, let's unpack this. We spent a lot of time on this deep dive analyzing brands. We talk
Yep.
about tech giants, retail empires,
Right. It's usually corporate, a little cold.
yeah, quarterly earnings, supply chains. But today, we are looking at a brand that has a heartbeat, a brand that, gets married, has children, goes on vacation.
Ice soccer.
Exactly. We were talking about brand Beckham. For what, 30 years? David and Victoria Beckham haven't just been a couple. They've been this seemingly impenetrable fortress of PR.
They really are the definition of a power couple. In the UK, they're practically the second royal family. So polished, so private, and incredibly profitable.
Which is why the events of late January 2026 are just so shocking. This isn't a crack in the facade. The whole building came down.
Oh, yeah. We are talking about the nuclear feud between the eldest son, Brooklyn, and his parents.
And this isn't, anonymous sources whispering to tabloids.
No, this is Brooklyn posting a 6-page manifesto on his own Instagram. A literal hit piece, blasting his parents to millions of followers.
I really want to dive into the psychology of this because the sources we have are fascinating. They paint a picture that goes way beyond celebrity gossip.
It's a case study, really, on family dynamics, on what happens when a child is treated as a business asset.
And the explosive results when that asset decides to quit the firm.
It raises that fundamental question, commodification of children. What happens when your entire identity is just tied to your parents' marketing strategy?
Eventually, you might just try to burn that strategy to the ground.
Just to see if you exist outside of it.
So let's look past the headlines. We need to reconstruct the timeline, look at the, frankly, bizarre accusations.
The wedding dance.
Oh, the wedding dance. I am still trying to visualize that. And we need to understand why this is happening right now.
Let's start with the trigger event. The moment everyone realized this wasn't just a rumor anymore.
David Beckham's 50th birthday.
A massive milestone. If you're David Beckham, you don't just, have a cake and a few beers.
No, you have a global event. The sources describe this star-studded bash. Gordon Ramsay is there, Eva Longoria, the absolute A-list.
Cameras rolling, champagne flowing.
But there is a glaring hole in the family photo.
Brooklyn is missing.
He didn't just skip the party, he skipped the entire continent. And instead of posting a nice generic happy 50th dad photo, which is like the bare minimum PR move.
Even if you hate each other.
Right. He chose violence. He dropped that Instagram statement.
And the language he used, if you read the text of that post, it's just striking. He explicitly wrote, "I do not want to reconcile."
That is a door slamming shut.
Yeah.
It felt so final. He said, "I have been silent for years. Unfortunately, my parents and their team have continued to go to the press."
That stood out to me, too. He's not just accusing them of being bad parents. He's accusing them of running a smear campaign.
He's treating them like a rival media conglomerate, basically saying, you are leaking stories about my wife, Nicola, to protect your own image.
Right, to protect the brand over the son's marriage.
And there's that narrative floating around for a while, wasn't there? That Nicola was the villain.
The Yoko Ono of the Beckham family, controlling Brooklyn, pulling him away.
And in this post, Brooklyn is trying to just kill that narrative. He says he's finally standing up for himself. But this is where the deep dive gets interesting. When you look at the structure of his rebellion, does it feel spontaneous to you?
Well, it was 6 pages long.
Yeah. Most people don't write 6 pages on Instagram at 2 in the morning unless they're really spiraling.
Exactly. But looking at the phrasing, some crisis management experts in our sources suggest this wasn't an emotional outburst, it was strategy.
You think it was drafted?
Oh, likely drafted, redrafted, polished by his own team.
That is so ironic. He's using a PR team to complain about his parents' PR team.
It's the only language he knows. He's fighting fire with fire. But within that statement, there were some raw, visceral accusations.
And we have to talk about the dance.
The inappropriate dance.
I read this 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
It's a detail that really, really sticks. Brooklyn claims that at his own wedding to Nicola, his mother, Victoria Beckham, hijacked the first dance.
Paint the picture for us. Because the first dance is supposed to be sacred, right?
It's the moment for the bride and groom. So Mark Anthony, the singer, is on stage. He calls the bride and groom forward. It's the romantic climax.
Okay, so far so good.
According to Brooklyn, instead of Nicola stepping onto the floor, his mother, Victoria, was already waiting there.
No.
And he claims she proceeded to dance very inappropriately on him in front of 500 guests.
Inappropriately. I mean, that is a loaded word,
Oh,
especially when you're talking about your mother.
it is. The implication is humiliation. He's painting this picture of a mother who cannot stand her son being the center of attention with another woman. She had to physically insert herself into his spotlight.
It sounds like something out of a Greek tragedy or a really awkward episode of Succession.
It really does. And then he brought up the dress controversy.
Right, the dress. This was the original rumor that started all of this. Nicola didn't wear a Victoria Beckham design.
Which, in the fashion world, is a huge statement. If your mother-in-law is a world-famous designer, the expectation, the brand synergy, it just demands she dresses the bride.
But she walked down the aisle in Valentino.
And Brooklyn addresses this. He claims Victoria canceled making the dress at the 11th hour. He paints it as Victoria abandoning them. My mom bailed on us.
But we have to be critical here. The other sources tell a different story.
Exactly. There's a Vogue interview from around that time, and it mentions that Valentino had been working on Nicola's dress for over a year.
So if Valentino was working on it for a year, the whole 11th hour cancellation thing doesn't really add up, does it? You don't just whip up a Valentino couture gown in a week.
It gets murky. And you have to ask, why would Victoria refuse? I mean, even if she hated Nicola, making that dress is incredible global advertising. It's millions in free exposure.
She is a businesswoman first.
Right. It just doesn't make business sense.
Unless the personal animosity was just that high. Or maybe Brooklyn and Nicola are rewriting history.
It's probably a mix of both. But whatever happened, that wedding was the turning point. But to really understand why this is all happening now, I think we have to zoom out.
We have to go back to 1999.
The peak of Posh and Becks.
I remember it so well. They weren't just famous, they were a phenomenon. And when Brooklyn was born, it wasn't a birth, it was a product launch.
One commentator put it perfectly. He's been in the public eye since he was basically an embryo.
And the name, Brooklyn. It was headline news. So distinct, so memorable.
And this gets to the central tension of his life. Identity. When you're born into that, your name is commodified immediately. Here's a fact that blew my mind. In 2016, Victoria registered Brooklyn Beckham as a trademark in the EU.
Wait, she trademarked his name while he was still a teenager?
Yep. Covering everything from skincare to sucker balls.
Wow, it sits uncomfortably with me.
Well, from a business perspective, it's sensible, it safeguards the name, but try to look at that through the eyes of a 17-year-old boy.
It just signals, we see you as our son, but we also see you as intellectual property.
Exactly. I love you, son. Also, can you sign this licensing agreement? It creates a dynamic where your very existence is tied to your parents' financial success.
To be fair, though, the sources do say they tried to keep the kids grounded.
They did. There are those stories of Brooklyn working a minimum wage job in a coffee shop.
Right, and writing thank you notes.
So you have this friction. On one hand, work hard, be polite, be normal. On the other, you are a walking trademark, and our global empire depends on your image.
That friction works just fine, as long as the child stays in the bubble.
But what happens when that child meets someone who offers them a different narrative? Someone who says, hey, you don't have to be their prop.
Enter Nicola Peltz.
The catalyst. Now, Nicola isn't some starry-eyed fan. She's the daughter of Nelson Peltz, a billionaire investor.
That's a key distinction. She grew up with arguably more wealth than the Beckhams.
Significantly more. The Beckhams are rich. The Peltz family is by the bank rich. So Brooklyn wasn't marrying up or down. He was marrying sideways into a different kind of power.
And they met at Coachella. Then reconnected at a Leonardo DiCaprio party.
Of course.
Engaged within 6 months. And initially, Victoria was thrilled.
Absolutely. The sources say they were besties at the start, sharing clothes, everything. The Beckhams wanted Brooklyn to date someone of their stature. A billionaire's daughter fits the bill perfectly.
It's a merger as much as a marriage. But then the wedding happens. And after the dress and the dance, the vibes were just off immediately.
The disintegration was rapid.
I remember seeing photos from David's documentary premiere. Nicola just looked bored.
Checking her watch board, you could see the physical division. She was signaling, I am not part of this brand.
And then the vow renewal. That felt like a very deliberate message.
That was the line in the sand. They renewed their vows, but they did not invite David or Victoria.
Renewing vows so quickly and excluding the parents.
It was symbolic. The sources say it was them taking their power back. They felt the original wedding was hijacked. This was their do-over.
A wedding without the brand.
And then came the digital warfare. The blocking.
Cruz Beckham, his younger brother, confirmed it. He said He blocked us. He blocked mom and dad.
Blocking your parents on Instagram is the modern equivalent of changing the locks on the front door.
It really is.
Yeah.
But this brings us to the core wound. The why. Why go so public? Why not just stop calling them?
There's a specific story in our notes, the hotel room story, that I think gets to the heart of his pain.
Okay.
Brooklyn claims that he and Nicola traveled to London, his hometown, and tried to see David. But he says David refused to see them privately.
Refused to see his own son.
Unless it was at the big party. The message was essentially, I will see you at the event where there are cameras at every corner.
That is just heartbreaking if it's true. It reinforces that feeling of being a commodity.
Exactly. I don't want to see you, my son. I want to see Brooklyn Beckham, the guest star, to complete the photo op. He felt dehumanized, like a prop.
It sounds incredibly lonely. You're sitting in a hotel room in your hometown, and your dad won't come over for a coffee because there's no press coverage for it.
And that's where the shouting comes in. This psychological analysis suggests that people start shouting or posting 6-page rants when they feel like they aren't being heard.
It's a last resort. He's saying, if you won't listen to me in private, you will listen to me in public.
Meanwhile, David and Victoria's strategy is dignified silence. David was actually at Davos when this all dropped.
Davos. Of course he was.
He was asked about it, and he just evaded. But he did make a pointed comment. He said, when others go low, go high. Say nothing.
Say nothing. The classic royal family approach. Never complain, never explain.
It protects the brand. It positions them as the mature parents dealing with a wayward child, and it gets them public sympathy while Brooklyn looks explosive.
So we have the parents playing the long game, the son burning the house down. But here's a theory I saw. Is it possible this is all just normal?
That's the fascinating angle. One expert suggests this is a very standard developmental stage. Leaving home, rejecting your parents' way of life, prioritizing your new spouse.
It just usually involves an awkward Thanksgiving dinner, not global press coverage.
Exactly. We're witnessing a normal family rupture, but because it's the Beckhams, the volume is turned up to 1 billion.
It's interesting how this changes Brooklyn's image, too. For years, let's be honest, he was kind of a punchline.
He was. What does Brooklyn actually do? The photographer, then the chef.
He was the poster child for nepotism. But now, whether you agree with his methods or not, he's seen as a man standing on his own. He's defining himself against the brand.
He's become the anti-Beckham. And in a strange twist, he's using the very tools his parents taught him, manipulating the media, controlling the narrative to dismantle the image they built.
He learned from the best.
He's using the brand Beckham playbook to destroy brand Beckham.
So what does this all mean for the future? Can they come back from this?
Well, relationships usually heal with time and privacy. Those are two things that Beckhams rarely have. But the sources do emphasize they're a tight-knit family. They want to mend this.
It's a tragedy for them, really. But it's also a fascinating lesson on the limits of PR. You can trademark a name, you can control the paparazzi, but you can't trademark loyalty.
And you can't script human emotion. Eventually, people go off script.
We've gone from the birth of a trademarked baby to a man blocking his parents to protect his new life. It's been quite a journey.
It just leaves us with a difficult question. If your name is a trademark owned by your mother, is it ever possible to truly leave home without burning the house down?
Something to think about. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.